Here we go. So welcome to Winter Biking, presented by myself and Ellen. We are full-time SVBC staffers. And the theme of this presentation is warm, dry, and visible, which is exactly how you want to be when you're outside in the winter weather, riding your bike for transportation or for fun. All right, next slide, please. So some meeting guidelines, try to be aware of when you're participating, if you're leaving space for other people to speak up if they need to. Some of us need a little bit extra time to gather our thoughts and then speak up. Be respectful of those in the room, try to stay on topic, focus on not interrupting each other, and assume good intent. So if you hear something that you might disagree with, assume that everyone's hearts is in the right place. Bike people tend to be kindly folks. So we'll be kind to each other here. Next, please. If you are able and willing, if you could rename yourself to include the city where you live and your pronouns. And if you want to ask any questions, I want this to be like as participatory and interactive as possible. If you could just unmute yourself and ask your question, and we'll hop right to it.
Eleni, cool. you should rename yourself so that people can remember your name.
Oh yeah. Thanks. Am I in here as admin or something?
Yeah, right now your name is SVBC admin, and well, I appreciate it. I don't think that's what's on your driver's license.
Right. Okay, cool. All right. I have saved my new name. Cool. All right. Next, please. All right, cool. So a little bit about the organization. If you're receiving the newsletters, you probably get what we're all about, but we have two sides of the house here at SVBC. There is the advocacy side, which works on building good places for people to ride bikes. And then the programs side of the house works on events and education to help people build bike confidence and use bikes for everyday use. We're a nonprofit 501c3, and we're member-based, which means that we rely on folks like you guys and as many as we can get in the community to put their weight behind our organization and grow our membership numbers. Our mission is to create a healthy community, environment, and economy through bicycling in San Mateo and Santa Clara counties. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are really central to our work, and we're always focused on making sure we're bringing in a wide population of people so that we can listen to the needs of the whole community. Next, please. Here's a little bit more about the work we're trying to do in diversity, equity, and inclusion, listening to a wide variety of people again, working proactively to reach out to systemically excluded communities of color or immigrant communities or English as a second language communities to make sure that we're hearing their voices. And you can see our list of values there. Next, please. And cool, so jumping into today's presentation, if you could throw in the chat or unmute yourself and just say what level of cyclist you consider yourself. Are you somebody who's newer, like you kind of maybe just bought a bike in the last months or a year? Are you more moderate level, or are you pretty experienced? Chris says seasoned. We'll give it a couple seconds, see what folks want to say.
I feel like seasoned is a particularly apt describer considering the topic tonight. Biking, they're seasoned.
Got it. I see what you did there. Okay, moderate to seasoned. Arlene considers herself seasoned. Mary says moderate, ride on trails only, not on city streets. Okay, cool, excellent. Thanks for sharing, guys. Cool, so given your variety of experiences, if you have questions, just feel free to shout it out and go into more details on anything we're talking about tonight. Next, please. Awesome. So today's topic is riding bikes in the wintertime. So we'll go over some changes that occur during the winter. That's why we need this webinar, right? Is because riding in this different type of weather is not as, oh, interesting. Patricia retired in 2017 as a commuter and hasn't ridden since. Intriguing. I'm glad that you're here. We're happy to have you online with us. So we'll go over the differences between riding during winter and the kind of kinder, warmer months. We'll go over changes that you should make to your bike to make it more resilient and maintain it through the winter time. Go through changes you can make to your person in what you wear or what you eat and drink to keep yourself feeling good. And then we'll go through some safe riding tips, how you might want to modify your riding behavior during the winter. So it's all about modifications and changes that we make during the winter time. And again, the Q&A and discussion, keep it like as interactive as we can. Cool. So what changes in the winter? So on the left, you'll see the changes that we see, and on the right, you'll see the changes we make to adapt to this weather. So when it gets wet out there, we put on waterproof gear and we waterproof our bike. When it gets cold, we put on more layers and we pick out good materials that are comfortable and will keep us warm. Less daylight means we're more reliant on high-vis clothing and lights because we're using them more often in these darker months. And then these harsher elements means that we have to modify our behavior to maintain our bike and make sure that it keeps running well, keep it lubricated, keep it dried off after a wet ride, that type of stuff. Cool, let's jump into prepping your bike for winter. This picture here shows different varieties of bike tires. So on the left, you see the fastest, skinniest road tires imaginable. And those usually are around like under 1 inch to 1 inch thick. And then as it goes forward to the right, you'll see that they get thicker and the tread type changes. And the more knobby and wider of a tire that you have, that gives you a larger patch of traction where your tire touches the ground. So a wider and knobbier type of tread tire is going to feel more stable and will grab the ground, especially when it's wet and slick out there, and give you a more stable ride. So have you guys experienced, changing your tires for winter or preferring a wider type tire during the winter or a different tread type?
Definitely. I'm from Virginia, so I don't really consider California to be this winter to really be winter. This is like summer to me or spring. So I have actually, I think the same tire as the one on the far right on my bike. But when I was in Virginia, I don't think I biked the safest, biking with some pretty skinny, low tread road bike tires on ice and snow. But I have a question though, if that's okay.
Yeah.
About, could you explain why the tire pressure is decreased by 10 psi during the winter time?
Yeah, so it will help create more area where the tire touches the ground, and a little bit more cushy, just more connection to the road is what you're going for with that lower PSI. Ellen, anything to add?
Oh yeah, so just dropping that PSI creates just a larger area of contact to the tire, which gives you better grip. I was gonna say I'm also from a cold place, Nathan. I'm from Illinois, and I spent many years commuting year round on my bicycle in Chicago. And so I actually just had 2 wheel sets, and one of them had studded winter tires on it. And I would swap out my wheels depending on what the weather and what the roads looked like that day, because swapping out the actual wheels was faster than changing the tires. So California feels
cool.
pretty magical.
That's cool. Yeah. That's awesome.
Nice. One thing I forgot to mention is that generally the wider size of tires will be like 2, maybe like getting closer to 3 inches. So that's really the range you're looking at, is like 1 inch to 2 inches is the difference between like a road tire and a sort of wider mountain bike tire, or just a sort of standard commuter city tire.
It's also worth noting that some of the common knowledge that applies to car tires doesn't really translate to bike tires. So in car tires, decreasing your tire pressure can actually be problematic. Car tires are a little bit more prone to hydroplaning in wet conditions. But when we consider the surface area that a car tire has in contact with the road, it's significantly more, and it's easy to understand how water might kind of create a wet patch between the road surface and the tire. So if anyone here is wondering why this sounds different than the knowledge that they had about their car tires in wet weather, it's because we're talking about 2 really different things here. Yes, they're both rubber tires, but really, really different ways that they interact with the road.
Excellent. Okay, cool. When it comes to waterproofing your bike, one thing that you don't want is to be riding on a wet seat or saddle. So on the left, you'll see the expensive way to keep your saddle dry when you're not sitting on it, which is to purchase or find from a free resource fair for bicyclists a seat cover, which is waterproof. And then when you hop off your bike, you just stretch it over the saddle, and it'll keep the rainwater off of your saddle. The other more affordable way to do it, which is what I usually use, is a grocery bag. Carry one of those, and this is actually a common theme that you'll see throughout like your winter biking experiences, is that the budget way to do it is just to reuse something plastic to waterproof any part of yourself or your bike. So yeah, you can get a waterproof saddle cover, or you can get a grocery bag. Mary says she's a grocery bag type of person.
I will also say that if you get caught in an unexpected rainstorm and you didn't cover your saddle, if there's any foam in it, is now a sponge. And when you sit on it, it's going to release all that water under your butt. So sometimes the plastic bag comes in handy after your saddle has already gotten wet.
Yes,
so
that's the other way.
Having a plastic bag, in your handlebar bag or on your person, it's always a good idea. You never know when you're going to find like some plums to pick on the side of the road, or when your saddle is going to be rained on unexpectedly. Always carry a plastic bag.
Yep. Cool. If you're carrying a backpack or panniers, you might want to get a waterproof set of bags or a cover that you can use to cover up your backpack and keep it dry in the rain while you're going. And then in the bottom right, you'll see not a handlebar bag, but a top tube bag that has a waterproof plastic cover for your phone. So you can quickly like windshield wiper off the water and still be able to see your phone if you're navigating or texting mom or whatever. And then again, the cheaper alternative here, trash bags, plastic Ziploc bags, other plastic materials. Cool. Moving on. Waterproof gloves. Did you end up finding some, Patricia? Did you find a good brand that you would recommend? I'm sure the answer will come up. Oh man. Okay.
Honestly, sometimes I just do nitrile gloves, like stretchy gloves.
Yep.
It's not ideal, but if you need to keep your fingers dry, it's a good fit.
It's something. Yes, or if you have to text your kids, if you're the parent in the situation. So another area where you can help your bike be a little bit more water repellent, if not waterproof, is to keep your tires from kicking up mud and water and just grime and dirt as you're going, is a mud flap, which is what you see on the left, or a really nice fender, which is what you see in the middle. And those can go on front or rear. You see a rear one right there. And then on the right-hand side, this is a fun DIY project that we found on rei.com, which is to take a 1.5-inch wide aluminum metal strip from a hardware store and basically bolt it to your frame and file it into the shape of a fender, file down the corners. So could be a fun rainy day DIY project. Do you guys use fenders in the winter, in the rain?
Fenders are the best preventative against the skunk stripe.
Yeah, the skunk stripe. Nathan says mudguard. Yep. Yeah, Mr. Chris, were you going to say something?
No. Did you say something about skunk stripe?
Yeah, so colloquially, a lot of folks who ride in dirt or mud or wet areas, they call the stripe of dirt you get up your back a skunk stripe. And so that's the grit and the dirt and the mud that your tire kicks up, because it creates a perfectly straight line right up the back of your pants and the back of your shirt, and sometimes into your hair if you're really, really good at it. I mean, that's really the sign of a good ride, is when you have to wash the grit out of your hair.
Yeah, okay.
Unfortunately, it's not really the most professional look, as Arlene and I were enthusing about earlier. So fenders are really key to keeping your clothes clean and keeping the water off your clothes.
Oh, that's a good one. Yep. If you're a rack can also help, block a little bit of that spray up. Like Patricia said, Panier's rack had a top bag to keep her butt clean. And so you'll notice that this and most of the work that the coalition does is focused on transportation riding. So we're not going to talk much about mountain biking in the rain. But if we've got extra time, I'd love to hear your funny stories.
I mean, if you're mountain biking in the rain, I think you should just embrace the mud.
Right? You're not out there because you're afraid of getting dirty.
I would like to note there are kind of collapsible mud guards. So that one on the left where it just kind of attaches to the seat post. There are a couple different varieties of mud guards that either fold or kind of roll up. So that way you don't have to have them deployed all of the time, but you can kind of tuck them in your bag. And that way, if you're at work and you're like, oh no, it has started raining, this is not going to be a good time on the way home, you've got something to put out there. It's not as effective as like a full fender. This full fender, as featured in the middle photo, is really the most effective. It's great at keeping all the road dirt off. But if you want to have a little something to keep the dirt and dust and moisture to a minimum, those collapsible mud guards can be a great option.
Hi, can I interrupt for a moment?
Yes, for sure.
I'm having to use my phone because I can't seem to log in to the meeting on my tablet. It keeps saying it's the wrong passcode, and I'd love to see the slides, but I can't see the slides on my phone.
Oh my, maybe maybe we can send you the direct link. Are you able to see the chat?
No, I can't log into Zoom on my tablet because it keeps saying that I have the wrong passcode.
Okay.
Who is talking? I will send you an email with the direct link while Eleni presents the next slide.
Thank you. This is Virginia Leslie.
Perfect. I'll get that sent over.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Great collaboration, guys. Okay, awesome. This is a great slide to spend time on while our slide forwarder is otherwise occupied. So lights and reflectors, again, this is where the visible part comes in. So we're going to be riding out in the dark a lot more. And here you see some good options to keep yourself more visible in the dark. Just starting from the left, you can see how reflectivity can help you be more visible to other road users around you, with reflectors on the pedals, reflectors on his ankles with the green horizontal stripes, and then a top jacket layer that is fully reflective, or that could be just a reflective sort of strip vest that he's thrown over. There are really endless ways to work that reflectivity in. A high-vis helmet will keep your head area more visible as you're riding. You can get reflective ankle straps like you see in the bottom-ish photo on the left. They make helmets that have lights built into them, and then you have to charge your helmet, so you like plug it in to charge it. I think that brand is called Lumos. In the bottom right, not bottom right, but the bottom second column, that's a photo from San Jose Bike Party where you can see a variety of bike lights on people's rims and frames. And then having a high-vis yellow jacket will also create a lot of visible high-vis area on your, hold on one sec, sorry, on your person. So, that's a pretty standard, like what you might see on a road commute home. I do notice that his tires are pretty thin. He might want to swap those out for some wider, knobbier tires. And then I think we have some examples on the next slide. Did we get Ellen back? We did, cool. So here are some examples of the brands of lights that Ellen and I have both used personally. Oh good, Virginia's in the waiting room, awesome. And then you can see, I brought my bike to show you guys those purple, the blue lights that you see in the box, that's what they look like when they're on my front wheel. And yes, they have been flashing this whole time.
Wow.
just waiting for this moment. So features that you want to look for in the types of lights that you can get would be what type of mount they use. Is there a specific mount that you have to attach to your handlebars or your seat post or your rack to then attach the light to that? That can be a plastic clip, that can be a stretchy band. Other features are the number of lumens, and this one's really important. So lumens range from about 50 lumens to 1,000 plus, and 1,000 will be really bright. That's like, you're gonna pay big bucks for 1,000 lumen headlight. But usually like 500 would be a good range for commuting. But definitely I would not recommend going under like 200 lumens for a commuter light. And then that chart on the left-hand side of the screen kind of shows you what different options are. And then the rules of the road per the California Vehicle Code are that people riding bikes, their bikes have to be equipped with a white front light and a red rear reflector. You're not required legally to have a red tail light. You're just required to have the reflector. But the tail light actually is it increases your safety more than having a white headlight, because most people are not hit in head-on bike collisions. Most people are hit in drivers trying to overtake them from not seeing them, from hitting in the rear, or like a right hook type situation. You would really want to have a red tail light in that situation. Yeah, so it's these brands that you see here, Kryptonite in the top left, Light and Motion in the middle. That one might be the Blitzu on the bottom. Lezine, I think, is on the top right. And then what's that bottom one? That was one of Ellen's.
That's night provision. It's a little different than the one I have. I was telling Eleni I really like the night provision lights because they have a great warranty. And so the couple of times that I have broken them, they've actually just sent me out a brand new set. No need to pay for shipping or anything. Like I broke the little elastic band that held it on, and another time I dropped it and broke the lens on the light, and they just sent me a whole brand new set, front and rear. It was great. Plus they're pretty affordable, and I tend to lose things or break them. So
Virginia says, what if you have monkey lights attached to your front wheel? Monkey lights are a great brand, and they're customizable, right? Or personalized. So yeah, I would turn those on anytime you're riding at night. They might be fun and goofy, but they're more high vis than nothing. So I'd say go for it.
wait, what are monkey lights?
They're a special type of spoke light. They can make designs.
Oh, those really cool ones where you can have like Pac-Man chasing things. That kind?
I think so.
Okay.
Possibly. I don't know. Yes, Chris, what's up?
Yeah, I just got some lights for the patio. And there's an app on my phone that I can change the orientation of the lights and the duration.
Nice.
Does that wheel brights thing have the same thing where you can change it to like blinking or strobing or always on?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great another like feature that you're going to want to look for when you're purchasing those type of like rim lights.
Yeah.
Are they customizable? So some come with a remote control that you can change the color, or you can change the flash, frequency or duration or whatever. These ones only have 2 settings. It has solids and blinking.
Okay.
But yeah, so whenever you're going online to shop for bike gear, it's like such a vast variety of offerings, but knowing what features you're looking for will obviously, like anything, help you narrow down. So if you know that's what you want,
Yeah.
that'd be a good one.
Cheap too. They're not that expensive.
Yeah. Nope. I think the lights that I was seeing just to put lights around my rim were like $12-15 for a set of 2. Yep. Cool. Questions about lights? Yes. Has there been any sort of feedback from drivers regarding flashing lights on the wheels as a distraction to the people driving? Distraction. Life is full of distractions.
I was gonna say, I don't know who they would kind of file those like complaints or that feedback with that we would receive it. I do know that having a flashing headlight makes it pretty difficult for drivers to kind of gauge their actual distance from you. So when you have
like
that
depth
white light on
perception.
the depth perception can get challenging when your light is flashing. So if you do want to run a flashing light, say to make yourself a little bit more obviously visible, it's a good idea to pair it with a steady light that does not flash. Just that way they can more accurately gauge where you're at and how quickly you're approaching them.
Yep. Headlamps, Mary continues, headlamps on helmets have been a problem for me as a driver. I agree. I also think if you have a headlight that's way too bright as a person driving or a person biking, and you're blinding others. I ride with friends who have extremely bright taillights, and it's a problem for me because it blinds me when I'm riding behind them. Yeah. So I think strobe lighting or flashing lighting is good for grabbing attention, but I prefer to just run a steady light on front and back. They do have the pulse, which is where it gradually increases and then flashes black or flashes dark again, and then gradually increases flash dark. And I think there has been testing done that, that's like safer than just a strobe or harsh flashing. But I prefer steady lights. Any other questions about lights? Okay, let's move
I
on.
also really recommend keeping 2 sets of lights and just keeping one on the charger while you're riding with the other. And that way you're less likely to be about to head out the door and go for a ride and realize that your batteries are all dead. Because that is a major bummer. Yeah, Virginia, I've got some of those night eyes lights on some of the spokes on one of my bikes. Those are pretty cute. Basically anything that'll make you more visible, that makes you more likely to be seen at night is going to be your friend here.
Yeah, appreciate the brand recommendations always. All right. So when it comes to keeping our bikes and everything happy during wintertime, you're going to want to use a wet weather lube, which is water repellent, and that'll help keep your chain from rusting. After you go out for a wet ride, make sure you grab a towel and dry off your components just to get that water off of there as quick as you can. If you guys have questions about the process of lubing a chain or how much lube to use or where to put the lube, let us know and we can either send over a video. There are plenty of tutorials online about the right way to do it. It's not exactly a less is more, but it's more like apply 1 drop to each chain link. And that's pretty much what you need to know. And you're spinning the pedals backwards to then draw that chain towards you in order, or move the chain along in order to keep adding lube to the links. Yeah, dry off the bike, lube your chain. Ellen, thoughts?
It doesn't need to be done perfectly every time, especially if we're in a wet patch. Like if you just think about, I'll often grab like a rag and just grab onto my chain and like pedal backwards a few times to kind of get any moisture and grit off of the bike. And then honestly, if we're just doing quick and dirty, I'll take like a clean section of that rag, apply some more lube, or apply fresh lube, grab hold of my chain and crank it back around. And that is typically good enough. Obviously, occasionally you do want to take the time to, carefully oil each link. But that's not something that needs to be done every time you go out in the rain. Most of the time, water by itself is not going to wash away all of your lubricant. Like there's a reason that we need degreasers to get all of it off of the chain. Virginia, you're asking about how to dry the chain and should you lube each time after riding in the rain? So like I just mentioned, my favorite way to do it is just to literally take a rag, kind of hold it in my hand and gently hold the chain in the rag and just pedal backwards that the chain is going through the rag in my hand, and that'll remove any moisture and grit. And then I'll take a clean section of that rag, apply the lubricant to it, and just kind of wrap that rag around again, hold on gently, and just pedal backwards to run the chain through that section of the rag that has the lubricant applied. Karen, WD-40 is actually not a lubricant. I know it seems like it's effective as one, but WD-40 is not a great lubricant to use on your bicycle. It can be great in a pinch. The WD in it actually stands for water displacement, which is what it does, but it's absolutely not the right lubricant to use. I think the company that makes WD-40 did recently start manufacturing a lubricant because so many people were using it as a lubricant. But it's definitely not the best. It's not the best product to be using on your bicycle. You'd want to go with an actual bike specific lubricant, and you can pick up a variety of different brands at your local bike store. It's pretty inexpensive. It shouldn't be more than like $12 for a bottle that'll last you probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. It's a pretty small investment in the long-term health of your drivetrain and your safety. Plus you get to go to the bike shop, and that's always a fun adventure.
The candy shop of bike nerds, yes. All right, cool. If you have more questions about chain and drivetrain maintenance, let us know. Okay.
Oh, look at this.
Oh, cool, yeah. More info about washing and drying off your bike. So when it comes to special cleansers or whatever you might want to use to clean off your bike. Soapy water is totally fine. A dry, clean rag will work. Just make sure you dry it thoroughly after you've done that cleaning process. And you're going to want to clean your wheels, the brake pads, to make sure that there's as least as possible grit and grime between your brake pads and the rims. And then also the cranks and the chain and the cassette, just to keep it all, free of road grit is sort of the name of the game. And dry.
And so Virginia, you can see kind of in that bottom left picture, oops, sorry. See how they've got that, the rag kind of wrapped around the chain and then they have their other hand on the crank. That's exactly what I'm talking about, where you just kind of gently put the rag between your hand and the chain, hold on to it, and you just want to let that chain slide right through the rag in your hand to help remove all of the moisture and whatever else might be on there. Don't use a rag you like. It'll never be the same.
Yeah, so I think that's what we have on prepping your bike with lights and maintenance and fenders and tires. If you guys have questions that have popped up, now is the time. Otherwise, I think we're going to move on to getting yourself ready as a rider. Clothing that you might want to invest in to keep you warm and dry and visible. Oh, Virginia has 2 questions. Cool. Let's hear them. I'm sure she's typing right now. Everybody else, if you want to take a second, like stretch or stand up or crack your back, whatever you gotta do. Okay.
So Eleni, you would say that the basics for prepping yourself for winter biking, especially if it's just wet, we're talking about checking your tire pressure, maybe dropping it a little if it's really wet out. We're talking about considering the use of fenders. We're talking about lights and reflectors. And we're talking about lubing your chain. Like those are the kind of the big components of prepping your bicycle to go out into the wet sloppiness of the California rainy season.
Yeah, the slight sogginess that is rarely below 50 degrees.
So Virginia's asking, what if she has a touring bike with skinny tires and no room for fenders? I think that's a situation where some of those kind of aftermarket mudguards can be really handy. So traditional fenders are going to fit between your fork and the tire, whereas those mudguards typically clip on like to the rear of your fork in the front, and on the back a lot of times they'll clip onto either your seat post or the rear triangle back there. So they don't typically give you as much coverage, like there's just not as much protection. But when you have clearance issues, you don't have a lot of options, unfortunately. So those kind of clip-on mudguards might be your best bet. The other option, if you're on a touring bike, a lot of times racks do a pretty good job of keeping all of the spray and moisture off of you. Like they block a lot of it. So that can be helpful too. And so depending on the kind of rack you have, either swapping it out for one that has more coverage if you don't want to like have a trunk bag back there, or even just, taking a piece of, like even laminated paper, just some sort of thin plastic that you could strap on there to kind of prevent the water from kicking up off of that rear tire and onto you is going to be your best bet. Eleni, do you have other thoughts?
Not on the tire clearance issue, but another product that I remembered that I would recommend is called Gear Floss, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a cotton string and you thread it between your cogs and just like, and you can take the grit and mud out from your rear cogs.
Oh,
like
gotcha. To help keep your cogs clean, but that won't help like while you're riding in the rain.
No, it's
Okay.
more of like an aftercare for your bike type of thing.
And yeah, Virginia, if you don't have clearance for a wider tire, you don't have a whole lot of options. You might, depending on, how much clearance we're talking about, sometimes bikes will say that they have clearance for a certain size. You can actually squeeze in something a little bit bigger. So you might kind of conspire with the mechanics at your local bike shop. They're usually willing to help you bend the rules a little bit. I think I had a bike that said it could fit up to like, I don't know, maybe a 30 millimeter tire width. And I think I was able to fit like a 34 or a 35 in there, as long as I was thoughtful about it. So sometimes there's a little bit of wiggle room, but also sometimes the bicycles that we have just, they don't have room. And so then we make do, or sometimes we just get a little bit soggy, which is why this next section is pretty great. Because when you can't use your bike to keep the rain off of you, you can always just dress more appropriately.
Yep. And Nathan stands the mountain bike mud guard, so that works pretty well. Okay, cool. So we kind of talked about how to make your helmet waterproof and visible, and the next level down is what to wear as your top layer and your mid layer and your base layer to stay warm and dry. So you're going to want a moisture wicking base layer. Cannot strongly enough recommend merino wool. It keeps you warm and it pulls your sweat away from your body to keep you less dry, because as you may know, you get sweaty and then are exposed to colder air that can, make you feel all damp and chilly. Your mid layer, something fuzzy, so that as your body is producing heat, it'll trap and retain that heat. To stay dry, you can invest in an outer shell, a rain shell, or a poncho. The shells are the types that you see on the left and the right. And both those are both high vis and may have some reflective striping or seaming on them to help you be more visible as well. You can see a reflective backpack on the bottom. That's a North Face brand. And some of these reflective backpacks are extremely bright and very amazing products. And then on the top, you'll see some reflective stickers. And those can be attached to your bike or adhered to your clothing or your bags or your helmet. Anywhere that you want some more reflectivity, you can use that type of sticker stash to increase your reflectiveness. Questions about the top layer? All right, cool. Let's move on. I think, folks, we're not close to time, but I want to be able to keep your attention and have time for discussion. So I might not pause for questions quite as much, and then we'll address questions at the end. But if something burning and pressing comes up, just shout it out. Some more options to keep yourself high vis on your upper body is the type of vests that you see myself and Ellen wearing. We dressed up to talk to you guys in our high vis safety yellow. On the right-hand side, you'll see a yellow poncho that has a hood, and another feature is the drawstrings that you can use to keep the rain off of your face. Ponchos are, they're an option, but they're not as awesome at, conforming to your body. There's always the chance that something could get stuck in your gears or your brakes.
Eleni, have you never ridden in a cycling poncho?
Maybe I haven't. Am I missing something?
So cycling ponchos are magic. They are cuts that they don't just go over your body. They're cuts that go over your handlebars too, and so they keep your hands out of the rain. And so they're cuts that they don't get entangled in your wheel, but they keep your entire top half, including your hands and arms, warm and dry, out of the elements. Cycling ponchos are kind of magical, and honestly, I really feel like it's a shame that we don't get more rain here, because I had one that I loved. But cycling ponchos are seriously great in wet areas. You look like such a dork, but man, there's nothing that keeps you warmer and drier than a cycling poncho.
Nice. So glad to hear it. Oh, cool. Learned something from you tonight. I've learned several things from Ellen every day since I've met her, but today it was cycling ponchos. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that. Is this a picture of a cycling poncho? Oh, cool. Nice. Excellent. Okay, cool. Next slide, please. To keep your lower half dry, you can get waterproof rain pants, or you can get waterproof shoe covers. To keep yourself warm, you can wear wool leggings underneath or silk long underwear, or you can wear other types of warm clothes on your base layer, like having a base layer for your lower half pretty much. Anyone have budget waterproof rain pant recommendations?
eBay.
I do not. Yeah.
eBay's the best bet for secondhand stuff. I actually buy a lot of secondhand merino wool base layers off of eBay as well. I just feel like it's the best option. Like if you're going new, I don't really have great suggestions for you because that stuff's expensive and I work for a nonprofit. But eBay, let me tell you, it's a great place for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I love to go thrifting at Goodwill to see what I can find. I prefer to buy stuff like in person so I can check it out as I purchase it. So it is hard to find quality athletic gear at a Goodwill, but sometimes you can find something that will service. Karen says she's used Scotchgard to modify her clothes. Interesting option. And then to keep yourself reflective on the bottom, you can get an ankle band that either like Velcros around your leg or like a slapstick that slaps and conforms to your leg that way. And I think we saw some pictures of those earlier. Cool. We lose the most heat through our extremities, right? Our head and our feet and our fingers. So to keep your head dry and warm, you can get a helmet cover like you see in the top right to keep the helmet from getting wet. You can find waterproof gloves, which I think we decided we don't have a good brand recommendation there. Next time I give this presentation, I'll try to find something. Waterproof shoe covers, these are pretty easy to find. You can see an example in the bottom right. Wicking socks, you can get wool socks or athletic socks. Those are pretty easy to find. And then to stay warm, I love adore wearing my cycling cap or a beanie. I refuse now to ride without a gaiter, especially in the cold weather. It's one, it makes a very convenient COVID mask. And two, you can blow your nose into it if your nose is running, which often happens when it's cold out. And three, it'll just keep the cold air off of your face, but it's a pretty thin, breathable layer, which is a nice addition. Oh, we don't have balaclavas on the list. How did balaclavas fall off this list?
I don't know. That's a disappointment, though. I mean, balaclavas are kind of overkill for California, but but for those of you who are unfamiliar, they cover your head and also most of your face, so you kind of look like a ninja. But they're super toasty and warm, and they do a really good job of keeping your nose and most of your face covered and out of the elements. They go over your head. They're usually pretty thin, typically out of like a polar fleece material, so they fit underneath your helmet nicely. Also, there's a box of hand warmers in the bottom right hand that's not on the list. So those are the disposable ones, but there are also ones that are reusable. And those would be my recommendation, just because it seems silly to throw things out every day to stay warm.
Totally. Are those ones like USB rechargeable?
No, they're actually some sort of weird chemical reaction.
Okay.
But
You don't
can,
microwave
like,
it, you shake it.
Yeah, I forget exactly how it works. I used to use them when I lived in Illinois, but no more because I'm a California girl now.
Cool. All right.
Any questions, comments about any of this? All right.
Cool. Then we have a section on safe riding tips, and this is pretty short and sweet, just some ways that you might want to modify your riding behavior. So one, slow down, ride with a little more caution. Hazards to avoid are puddles, wet leaves, oil slicks, like you see in the top right, and paint, which can be even more slick than before. Ride more upright. So if you're, instead of being down in your drops, you'll have more stability and easier to catch yourself if you do start to take a small tumble. If you're riding on the upright part of your bars, or if you have a more upright bike, this is a great time to pull it out. Hence my cushy step through frame that I use in the winter. Brake earlier in case your rims, and if you have disc brakes, this is not as much of a problem. If your rims have picked up any water, it can take a full revolution of the wheel for the pads to be able to actually apply force to slow you down. So brake earlier than you may be used to, and just make sure you can keep your feet on the pedals, because wet pedals, your feet can slip off and that'll throw you off balance real quick. And in the bottom right, you'll see, you may have seen this if you've ever driven a car in the rain, that everybody's visibility can become a little bit impaired. So that's why we want to pull out our extra safe riding behavior in the winter, in the rain.
I did just want to comment, just in case anyone hasn't experienced this, when Eleni mentioned that you should keep an eye out for paint on the road. What she's referencing are the painted stripes that are often on the roads, even that are designating bike lanes or dividing roads or crosswalks. Those things get really slippery when they're wet, which seems really counterintuitive. And I have questions for whoever designed that paint. But it's just a thing to be aware of when there's moisture on top of that paint. It's really slick. And sometimes your bicycle just kind of slips out from underneath you if you're not thinking about it.
Thanks, Ellen. Okay, what's up next? Oh, so here we can zoom through this because we're running a little short on time, but these are some basics that we like to talk about in every one of our presentations. How to do a safety check on your bike. There's the ABC quick check, which stands for air, brakes, chain / cassette. And the quick is for quick release levers. So make sure that your tires are inflated to the PSI listed on the tire wall. Make sure that your brakes are stopping your bike. You can do this by gripping each brake lever and leaning your bike back or forward to make sure that it stops the bike in the back and in the front. Give your chain a spin to make sure that it's shifting properly. Make sure that your quick release levers are tight. I will never forget the time that I saw a Boy Scout troop riding through a parking lot in front of me on a fun bike ride, and then somebody's front wheel fell out of the dropouts. And yeah, so check your quick release levers before you go. And then the check stands for a quick check ride to make sure that everything is feeling good. And if you have questions about how to make sure that all of these different aspects of your bike are in good working order, ask myself and Ellen. Thanks for coming, Chris. See you later.
Night. Thank you.
Good night. All right, next says, these are the essentials for any weather. You want a lock, lights, tube or patch repair kit, a helmet, a pump, and a multi-tool for any of your wrenching needs on the road. Oh, and your identification in case you want to stop for beer. Next, please. You can do it. And you're all here because you know you can do it and you want to do it. So if you would like to come on a wintry ride with us, we have several coming up that we're going to tell you about in the future. It's easy to find bike community because we're very visible because we have a bicycle with us. Bike people tend to be really friendly, so you can find folks in your neighborhood or your workplace who might want to go on a ride with you and help you feel more comfortable and confident riding. And we at the coalition, that is literally like what we exist for. So you can always come and ride with us and we will be so happy to have you. You can make a commitment for yourself, set up a goal to help yourself feel more motivated to ride. Next slide. So here's some links to our website and we will open it up to a Q&A. And I also wanted to drop into the chat some links to register for upcoming events that the coalition is doing. Ellen's gonna quit the screen share and drop these links in the chat, which I realize I totally could have done that too. Now she's like scanning windows and where's Gmail? Who said, thanks, look at all those awesome events coming up. You guys should join us. It's gonna be so fun. Virginia, what was your suggestion for the class?
I think oh, there she is.
I worry about my bicycle when I use it to run errands. I'm so afraid that somebody's going to steal my bike or part of my bike. So a future class on ways to secure the different parts of your bike so it's harder for somebody else to steal it, you know, best locks, best chains, whatever, you know, how to lock your wheels down, how to lock your handlebar down, your seat down. That I would find that really helpful.
Absolutely. Awesome. Virginia, maybe, you know, it would take us a matter of like weeks to get a class on the calendar, but if you want to email us, we can do like a one-on-one, you know, chat with you about what we would recommend. We would really love to help assuage your concerns sooner than later.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And then you can like email us pictures of your current setup and what you're doing. And I'm sure if you're concerned about it, I'm sure you've already taken like many of the preliminary steps to like have a good locking setup already. Yep.
No.
No, not so much.
No,
It can be a
'cause
little bit
mostly-
overwhelming. Like you go and you look at the bike locks and there's so many different brands and sizes and they all have different ratings and they're kind of expensive and it's hard to tell what you should actually bring home.
yeah,
Mhm.
I've been there.
True.
I looked at all the bike locks at the store too, Virginia. Yeah, we'd be
Um,
happy to talk you through how we lock up our own bikes. And part of it is technique, part of it is the type of lock you buy, and honestly, a significant portion of it is just where you choose to lock up. And we'd be happy to kind of
Yep.
talk you through that.
thank you.
You are welcome.
Arlene wants to know, do we have an email to ask bike questions or get advice? We don't. So we try hard to not be kind of the individual advisors to people who like to ride bikes. We try to offer classes, we try to offer education, and we are often available to answer those questions. But gosh, we need another full-time staff member if we were going to start just entertaining people's like very specific individual questions. But if you had specific questions at this time, you have 2 staff members at your disposal, and we are happy to brainstorm any questions you might have. Let's see here. Mary Alice wants to know if you're supposed to register your bikes anywhere. You are not legally obligated to register your bicycle. However, it is a really, really good idea to do a couple of things. Take some full photos of your bicycle from preferably multiple angles. I like it one from far away so you can see the whole bike. I like one up close so you can see all of the components of your drivetrain. And then I also like to flip my bike over because on the bottom of your bottom bracket, which is where your pedal is attached to your frame, there's a serial number stamped in there. And so if you take a picture of that, you'll have that on hand. Plus, you should go to bikeindex.com.org. I forget, if you Google bike index, it'll come up.
I use 529 Garage, which is a big bike registry index. So it's not affiliated with any legal agencies, like any cops, police forces or anything like that. But it's a really big and growing registration of folks' bikes. And then they send you a sticker, and that sticker can serve as a theft deterrent because anyone eyeing your bike, it sort of hardens your target. Anyone eyeing your bike knows that it's registered and is likely to be reported stolen and have a wide community of folks looking for it. I think there are also GPS tag options that you can add onto your bike, and folks can be alerted through an app or join a community where they're alerted if a bike reported stolen's tag is nearby to them.
So yeah, Apple makes those air tags, and there are actually brackets that are made. Most people I think are 3D printing them, but you can find them on Etsy pretty easily. But they're designed to fit between your water bottle holder and the frame of your bike, and they hold an air tag in there. So it makes it, I mean, not impossible to remove, but it would take someone to like A, notice that there's a little kind of nondescript bracket there, and then B, they'd have to have tools on hand to remove it. But yeah, so the GPS tracker is not a bad idea. I want to say they're like $40. And the bracket is probably another 10. And so depending on how much you like your bike and how much you rely on it to get around, it's a pretty small investment in the long-term security of your bicycle.
Yeah. Let me send
I
a
have a
link
question.
to Project
What's up, Nathan?
I actually had a question about one of the events I'm looking at. It's the Vegilution delivery event.
Yeah.
I've never ridden with a hitched load. Is it like, I guess it sounds silly. Is it hard to I'm looking at these boxes of food and it looks like there's like a lot of food. Can you still ride pretty smoothly?
So I've ridden with a couple of different kinds of loads, and so the trickiest things are starting from a dead stop. So you're at a stoplight, and it just takes you a little bit to get up to speed. Once you're at speed, you barely even notice it unless you have a really rambunctious dog in your trailer, in which case you notice it a lot. But vegetables fortunately tend to not move around very much. And so it's really not bad once you're at speed. The other thing to keep in mind is that stopping is going to take you a little bit longer, just because you've got a little more weight behind you. It's, pulling a trailer like that is maybe not something that I would want to do all day, every day, but it's kind of fun for a Saturday to grab a friend and bring your bikes out and spend the day hauling food around. and go out and get lunch afterwards. It's a really nice way to spend the day.
How far do y'all deliver boxes to?
That's a great question. Eleni, do you know offhand?
Probably not more than 7 miles away from the farm. And I think
Yeah,
that
it's
would
not
be like
far.
a pretty far stretch. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. Do you know where Emma Prush Farm Park is? That's where the deliveries start from.
I used to live right near there.
Oh, cool.
Mhm.
I answered a question in the chat for Arlene about removing and putting back on the bike lights on the wheel. This version is they're all attached on one wire, which kind of took a little bit of time to like wrap around securely, and I would have to unwrap it if I wanted to take them off. But there must be styles out there that are easier to clip on and off. But most attached that I've seen with like zip ties or with plastic nuts and bolts assemblies. You leaving? Bye, Nathan. Thanks for coming.
Hi, Papa. Thanks for chatting and educating.
Hopefully we'll
Got
see you
it.
at a ride sometime soon.
We got it.
Bye, Patricia. Thank you for coming. Yes, I have book club at 7 o'clock too. So I'm thrilled to stay with you guys. But we
I
are
can
at
hold
time.
I can hold down the fort if there are any other questions. Eleni, you can bounce. I
Awesome.
got this.
Cool. All right, guys. This was so wonderful. Thank you so much for coming and chatting bikes with us. And we'll send out an email with all of your with all of this follow-up information as well. All right, Ellen, it's all you. See you
All
later.
right. Have a great night, Eleni. Have fun talking about your book. Do we have
Thanks.
any other last minute questions?